on talking about neurodiversity. I didn't actually set out to make quite so many videos on this topic. I've just got a lot to say about it, and I do want to show you my Christmas stuff as well, but I might have to wait until next week now. We'll see how we go on. But yeah, talking about neurodiversity. I'm actually pleased I'm talking about this to camera actually, because for a long time I was actually too shy about talking about my experiences, because everything I read online was all about, oh, neurodiversity, like everyone agrees with it, you know, like I couldn't find anyone online who was critical of it, and I just felt like a lone wolf crying in the wind, and like I was really cautious, and I was really worried that if I were to express my views about it, I would get like a lot of hate. What's the word? I'll be getting attacked and criticised and stuff like that. So for a long time I felt like I didn't want to speak out against it. And then eventually I got the courage to do so, and I found out other people on Twitter who actually agree with me. Not all for the same reasons, it has to be said. And I think one of the problems, of course, is that you get all sorts of people who are critical of the neurodiversity movement. Some are very reactionary and that I really don't agree with at all. They might say some stuff against the neurodiversity movement I happen to agree with, but their other attitudes I might find are pretty nasty or pretty vile. So it doesn't mean I'm going to agree with everything else they say. You get people from all different political persuasions, both for and against the neurodiversity movement. It's not the case that people who are against the neurodiversity movement are automatically reactionary, and those who are in favour of it are automatically progressive. You know, it covers a vast array of different people who are pro and against it for all sorts of different reasons. And like I say, you know, I can understand where the neurodiversity people are coming from. It's just, I think some of them at least take it too far and can end up silencing and stereotyping the perspectives of people who disagree and making it out like they're all wrong. And so the way I experience autism, for me, and I'm only really speaking about myself here, but I'm all for creating a society that's better for people like me, you know, a more autism-friendly society. In a world that was a lot less noisy, a lot less bright, a lot less busy, and all of that, I would be far more relaxed, it is true. I would be able to be the best possible person I can be. Would all my problems disappear in such a world? No. I'd still have problems. I'd still be disabled. Certainly my degree of disability might go down a bit, and I'd certainly have a better quality of life. I'm not quite sure entirely what that world would look like, but I would certainly like a world where I get more support, to maybe access society, maybe to find my path in life, maybe, you know, more, like say for the sake of argument, if there were like activity groups for helping for autistic people, like, I don't know, that you could access for free, for example, with timetables, you know, a bit like when you were at school, so you could go and like pursue your interests and learn things, like almost lifelong education. You might not be able to work conventionally, but you can still get far more opportunities in the community that you can access for free without having to pay extortionate prices that you can't afford because you're on benefits. Or if, you know, you didn't have to worry anymore about having to apply for benefits because the government came in that gave people with long-term conditions lifelong benefits without having to constantly worry, will they take my benefits away? I love such a world. That would be a really good world. My issues would go down massively, but would I still be disabled? Yes, of course I would. I'd still be disabled because the innate impairment, my autism, would still be there. You know, no matter what world we live in, even if we live in a world where I get a lot more support and maybe there's like more help with social skills and stuff like that, or social skills groups, more intensive support, which currently just does not exist. If we lived in this world, which currently just remains a utopia, but I can but hope, but if we lived in such a world, that would be great, and I'm all for it. So that's the social model in practice, I guess, and I'm all for such a world, so I agree with the neurodiversity people on that level, definitely. You know, and obviously that is something that we should be campaigning for and arguing for. We might not get the full package, at least not straight away, but we can keep on campaigning and arguing for these things. But like I say, I still have the innate impairment. I still struggle to make friends. I still struggle to have relationships. You know, if I had a lot more support with these things, it might make it more likely that maybe I might potentially be able to make more connections, possibly. I can't say for certain, but possibly. But the thing with autism is that there's an innate impairment. So no matter how much kind of help you get from other people, I'm still going to get innate disconnect. That inability to access the other person's mind, which I can't do because, you know, I can't like understand other people's heads. I can't get into their heads, you know, I don't understand that kind of disconnect, which is really alienating. It's still going to be there. No, that isn't going to go. So the innate disability, no matter how much social skills training or what have you get, that innate blockage is still going to be there. So that's like a medical model, I guess, and that's my position, is that you can't ignore a medical model. And some people in the neurodiversity movement do that, and you have this kind of some absolutely fantastical notion that somehow you create this perfect society and all the problems associated with autism will disappear. And to me, that's just a utopia. I mean, that's absurd. And that, like I say, for neurodiversity people, they often argue that autism is a positive, or they say there are positives to being autistic. Well, in my own perspective, I can't speak for them, and I can't speak for other people. But from my own perspective, what positives, exactly? I mean, what? I mean, you know, I'm not depressed. I have an okay life for an autistic person, I guess. You know, I'm very lucky and fortunate that I've been able to I get support. I could do with more support, but, you know, at least I'm lucky that I have at least some support. I have strong interests that I pursue that give me order and a great deal of satisfaction. That is a positive in my life, certainly. But it's only a positive, really, relative to the disadvantage. Autism's funny like that. In my experience, autism is generally a disadvantage, but it also kind of like has a kind of like self-corrective. How can I make this? It has a kind of almost like a self-corrective element, where special interests come into play because they kind of like offset some of the negatives. They offset it, but they don't get rid of the negatives. They just kind of like balance them out a little bit. Autism has some redeeming features, you know. So yeah, I mean, autism's not all negative, certainly, but I wouldn't call it a kind of pure positive, because it's only positive relative to the negatives. It's a relative positivity, not an absolute positivity. So it'd still be better for me not to be autistic. Since I am autistic, I have to accept that fact. And obviously the fact that I'm very interested in certain things is positive, but I still rather not be autistic. And I know people who aren't autistic. For example, my grandfather, he's dead now. My grandfather was a university academic. He was a very intelligent man. He actually taught English literature at the University of LA and the University of Canterbury. A very, very intelligent man. You know, he was very focused. He wasn't autistic. Okay, he might have had some autistic traits, if you want to call it that, but he wasn't autistic. So it's possible, you know, you don't have to be autistic to have strong, intense passions and interests. Because autism's a kind of like a composite thing. You know, many people who aren't autistic might have the isolated traits without being autistic, but it's when all those traits come together and when they go above a certain threshold that someone is diagnosed autistic. And so what I'm saying is that many of the so-called positives that neurodiversity people talk about as being unique to autism can actually exist without autism. And when they do exist with autism, like I say, I would say it's mainly a relative positive, and that is relative compared to the disability. But usually, and I can't speak for everyone, but certainly from my perspective, and from many autistic people anyway, I know that for a fact that, you know, just by my being on Twitter and other things, is that many autistic people actually it would be far better for them if they could just function like non-autistic people, you know? Like, if you took away the sensory issues, if you turned the switch on so that I could actually connect with other people like non-autistic people can, you know, essentially then I would no longer be autistic. Would I want that in an ideal world? Yes, I would. Obviously, I can't say that I would like a cure now because I have autism. So, you know, that's kind of really a difficult question to answer. So I cannot answer the question if a cure existed, would I accept it? I can't actually answer that question because, you know, I've only ever known being autistic. You know, it might be too much of a thing. It might lead to a crisis. We just don't know. But, you know, is it preferable to actually be born with autism or without autism? Ask a non-autistic. A non-autistic, most people, if you ask someone who's not autistic, said, would you want to be autistic? They would say no. Because who would want to have a disability? It's far better being in this world, being able to function, you know, without any disadvantage. You know, that's just being realistic. And autism has, you know, has resulted in many problems for me. You know, I'm anxious 24/7. Some people in the neurodiversity movement go on about the anxiety as being a comorbidity, as though it's somehow not part of autism. And I think that's rather disingenuous, because while anxiety certainly isn't part of the criteria for autism, obviously, because you need to be able to distinguish other psychiatric conditions from autism, and you need a kind of core, if you like, that is autism, that they're diagnosed based on. But most autistic people actually do have anxiety, and I know they have done research to show that the autistic brain, there seems to be something in the autistic brain that makes it more predisposed to anxiety, so it seems like it's very likely that the two go hand in hand, and it seems to be something almost, people in the neurodiversity movement say it's all society. Certainly society can make it more likely that an autistic person is going to experience anxiety. It might push them over into clinical anxiety territory, but it seems that the autistic brain is innately predisposed to anxiety in many cases, perhaps the vast majority of cases, if not anxiety.